Hello,
Hey
Darshan.
everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I'm your host, Darshan Kulkarni. It's my mission to help patients trust the products they depend on. As part of trusting the products they depend on, they are often helped by consultants and guides and gurus. And we're going to talk to someone today who has finished his first trek as a guru and a guide, and is going to talk about what that trek was like and what does the next mountain look like. So I'm really excited about that discussion. As you may know, I'm an attorney. I'm a pharmacist, and I advise companies with FDA-regulated products. So if you have questions about drugs, wonder about devices, curious about cannabis, or obsess over pharmacy, this is the podcast for you. As a lawyer, I do have to say this over and over and over again. This is not legal advice. This is not clinical advice. This is not regulatory advice. So if you want to hire any of us for that stuff, feel free to reach out to us. But that's not what this podcast is about. It's all educational. I do these podcasts because they are exactly that. They're educational. And I feel like I learn something new each time. In fact, our guest today and I were just discussing that a few seconds ago. But it's nice to know that someone's listening. So if you could like, subscribe, and comment, that would be amazing. If you know people who would benefit, because I know I'm going to benefit from the conversation I'm about to have today, please share this with other gurus, other entrepreneurs that you know. If you have questions, you can always find me on Darshan Talks at Darshan Talks on Twitter, or go to our website, darshantalks.com. So I've sort of alluded to this the whole time, but I'm going to say this a little bit, expand on this a little bit more. Today's podcast is about someone who started off as a founder, struggled through all those things that we think founders are so much in control of, and has finished his first journey in that he has transitioned roles. And I'm so super excited to ask about what that transition looks like, because he was admittedly a little vague, because more people came in, but what does that actually mean for him? But I'm really excited to find out more. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're going, I'm so excited to be a founder, I'm so excited to start my company, today we're going to answer the question of what happens if you succeed. And that's not something enough people talk about. Our guest for today is Ed Narke. Ed and I have known each other for, at this point, probably about 10 years, if not longer. Probably longer, actually.
Longer.
But we don't talk nearly enough. And this is one of those great opportunities that lets me talk to someone like him without totally wasting his time. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk. But Ed, tell us more about yourself. Tell us more about your journey as a founder. How did it start? Why did you even start your company?
Okay, thanks. So Darshan, first off, I want to thank you obviously for inviting me along. This very exciting, digital technology and marketing. We're not here to sell anything. We're here to share our experiences, so the folks coming behind us could watch this and learn and develop their own skills, and ultimately teach the next lesson. So this is all thanks to all my mentors out there, that I never had to pay or could pay, who taught me everything I know, and I'm sharing it with folks hopefully who see this and get inspired. So my background, I have a chemistry background, process chemistry. So I started off in a science job type of thing in manufacturing and making a lot of materials for effectively large pharmas in the US and Europe, all the famous drugs from the 90s and early 2000s. Worked at a small company called Lonza in Switzerland. And I had excellent training. Again, some of the mentors there that taught me process chemistry, just being thorough, and ultimately moving into a large pharma company, Wyeth. Again, having mentors there that taught me the other side of the business, regulatory, CMC. When I had worked in manufacturing, I thought you improve a process by 50%. You just push it out there, perfect. But what I didn't realize until I was on the other side of a large company was that any slight change has to be registered and disseminated anywhere in the world. Otherwise, you're not in compliance. So luckily, I got involved with a company that was under a little bit of the microscope for some compliance issues. Just that, and I was able to move up into a position where I learned more about the overall business. Got to do some fun travels and those things over the years. So I did see drug development from both sides of the angles. What happens if you make changes on this front versus the effects of those changes. So moving forward, I did have a nice path at Big Pharma, but I think early 2006 or 7, had a wonderful opportunity to start at a biotech company where you get to make all the calls, you get to go to all the FDA meetings, you get to make all the relationships. And I figured, at that point it was a good opportunity. What I didn't realize until a couple of years later was that the amazing experience that you get by, jumping into the pool, not knowing how to swim and having to do this all yourself. You have to be a go-getter more or less, and you have to build a huge network because the answers aren't in the book. So again, getting that exposure and experience, I think that's where we met Darshan, and the great downsizing or whatever they called it back when we used to do the session. Pharma Thursdays, yes, I miss them much, right? And we're older now, but so anyway, long and short is I moved around a couple of biotech companies, as our industry knows. They can disappear fast. A lot of times it's running out of money, financing. Sometimes it's they shelf products, and successful ones, and a lot of times they're acquired through a license deal. And then that's also kind of how I fell in history. I probably fell at the perfect time for what I like to do. Most companies, basically go out and find a buyer, and they want somebody to, pay them for, their product that they developed. And then I think we saw the transition in the last maybe 15 years. A lot of large companies, large pharma, they're not necessarily the pipeline. They're not building their own products from scratch. They're not, they're basically taking the risk of letting other companies develop those to a point, whether it's a proof of concept or a phase, later phase product, and then they buy them or they partner with them. So then they become more of the marketing arm, which they do very well, and they do, they do well essentially. So the story goes, I think I moved into the biotech space because I kind of really wanted to get, a lot of information. I'd love to learn. I think you're going to ask me a question later on something about, what makes me happy. I think one of the first things is if learning, right? If I'm not learning, then I'm essentially kind of getting bored and, I'm not happy. So I don't know if you want to ask a different route from there, but I did recently find a partner for the company that I started. I didn't mention, but a partner and I of mine, we found each other at a small biotech, and we had the same philosophies, essentially, roll your sleeves up and get the job done. So we had successfully worked at a couple of companies where folks took notice of us and, the detailed work that we did. And a lot of those companies, it was a sort of a silver lining. They blew up, but I think one in particular, I won't mention the name, 7 or 8 of the executive folks there went on to become CEOs or CEOs at small biotech companies. And knowing us and stuff like that, they brought us in once we formed this company, this consulting company, to kind of handle, to kind of be a deeper department for them through our consulting group. So my partner, who, we met each other at the perfect time as well, he had staff. He had a terminal exit from a job. A company that he was working at was purchased by Big Pharma. So he took his group, and then we took my networking and extrovertedness skills. We kind of formed this group. So flash forward, we worked with maybe 250 biotechs. So I saw some of the most interesting stuff out there. And as I was mentioning, we found a partner, a European life sciences group that essentially acquired us recently. And we needed to do that to grow and to kind of expand what we're doing, and, which I think is really good stuff. Essentially I was on the front seat of the roller coaster ride in biotech, probably for the last, I'd say 15 years. And, I saw Boston, the Cambridge area develop, and probably was in everyone's office at least one time up there, saw some cutting edge stuff. Because of confidentiality, I can't share much. But then, a couple of years ago, I see San Francisco and Seattle and how they're basically becoming like large hubs for innovation. So, bringing it up to where I'm at right now, as you mentioned, or as you asked, where's my next, where am I at next? And I can kind of get into that depending on where you want to go with this, Darshan.
Well, before we go to where you're going next, I think it's important and interesting to discuss so many of the other sort of tidbits and the breadcrumbs you've left before you get there. So let's start from the beginning, which is one of the things every person I talk to, that I tell them that I do my law firm and stuff like that, the first thing is, you're so lucky you get to control your day and you get to do all the stuff you want, which is in reality is not true. I mean, you're
Right.
bound by a lot of the other things. But the more important thing, I think, is they come to you, they often have dreams of being an entrepreneur. As someone who, as you said, you just got bought out, You're now what most would consider a successful entrepreneur. What what was the price of success? How did you decide that you want to go from the stability of an employee to being an entrepreneur? And what did that look like in reality compared to what people sort of visualize?
Yeah, I can answer that in a couple different ways, Darshan. I'll just go through my feelings and emotions, and it'll just come out. So I never planned to be an entrepreneur. I don't know if anyone, a real one, does, right? The title and stuff doesn't mean much. I mean, it does, show some success that you've made it and those type of things like that. Obviously you have to do something entrepreneurial to be considered one. I think on my Twitter feed, I have some quote about that. But I kind of worked hard. I really struggled early on with where I was going with the career. We started at the bottom of a company. Hold on for a second here. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear me. I started at the bottom, and my goal wasn't necessarily to make more money or to get titles or anything like that. I have a passion for chemistry. I have a passion for science. I have a passion for people. I seem to gravitate towards people that saw the opportunity that they had in front of them. They gave me a chance to attend meetings on their behalf and push me forward. So, I attribute any success to everyone who came, taught me and trained me and those things, the opportunities, the Jeff Lees out there, the Mike Fensters. There's people before them and after them I can't even name here. But, so I think I kind of rolled into that. And then, as I got a little bit more, as I got a little further in the career, I just had more opportunities. I proved myself. I learned a lot of stuff. I was getting seasoned, right? And I just became more in positions where, I was able to make a difference. And I think the opportunity at the biotechs was a big one because, when you're leading a company essentially by your decisions and those type of things and how you operate, it's powerful. I was not a C-level person at a biotech. I don't know if I wanted to be one, right? So I think naturally I became somebody that organized. I feel that I'm a leader, the skills or the attributes of a leader, to be able to motivate people and, those type of things versus a manager. I think these things just came natural, maybe from my parents giving me those, or maybe just I had to figure them out over the years. But, ultimately we found a group that, we saw an unmet need out there. There was a dearth in the offerings there, and I could say this, there was a lot of ex-folks that worked at agencies that made decisions, to approve products and drugs and stuff like that didn't have the industry experience, more of a checkbox, as they say. But I worked in manufacturing. This, I really knew what it costs, right? What decisions cost, when, timing and those things like that. So, and I think a lot of our group does here. And you have to have the experience, right? You can't just wake up one day and become a lawyer or a doctor, right? You have to actually have some training and then you have to do it, right? So, to be honest, I don't know if I ever strive to become an entrepreneur. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't necessarily see myself as one up, although I think at this point, the next step is probably to start something new. Currently, I'm in an interesting position at the company here. We're trying to have a vision. I'm helping them, kind of enter the U.S. market. Again, having been in the front seat of the roller coaster, I can see kind of everything before it gets here. I've taken the ride many times and trying to figure out what they're interested in doing and then see where my skills and my future come in.
So let's talk about that first piece, which is, you started a company, you start helping people. How much of being an extrovert was part of that? Did you find yourself being in a situation where you went, I couldn't have done this if I was an introvert? Or do you think that good work just begets more work?
I think both. I think extrovertedism and good work, quality work, leaving a mark, leaving a deliverable for something that somebody's paying for. I think combination of that, really is why we were successful. And I think, again, I have to credit my partner. He was operationally sound and, very seasoned as well. He always considered himself an introvert. Maybe he was, but when you get to know him, he's very open, and I think he likes, to share his information, his history. So, I mean, for me, I have no business development training or marketing training or any business training, essentially. I'm like I said, I do some stock trades and stuff like that, and I know about the markets and those things. But as far as selling things, I think we're all naturally selling everything. All of us, we're selling something. By going for a job interview or doing a good job at work, we're selling our skills and those things like that. For the extroverted part, what I enjoy is, and still do actually, is going into someone's office, a small biotech, and just listening. Hearing what's going on there. Like in that hearing, I could tell what their needs are. I could tell that something keeps them up at night or where the pinch points are. I never ever sell anything, and in fact, I hate it. I hate pushing stuff on people. Because I get the solicitations, you do as well. So does everyone listening here, right? You get that stuff. And most of the times you don't want it, you get it, certain things at certain times, but I'd like to listen. I like to build relationships. I learned so much about different sciences, different therapeutic areas. I saw and witnessed actually a lot of different interactions with agencies. Some of the stuff I never thought prior to doing this, you can get away with, but it's a partnership. Communication, as they say, is critical. So, kind of being extroverted, helped me facilitate a lot of the work that I did with customers and clients, not just with the agencies and their products and programs, but with them. I think making them feel comfortable, in addition to letting them know that, I know what I was doing, or we can help them because we have the skills, being real with them, listening to them, I think was really important. And then finding out, what their needs really were. And then the rest was easy,
Okay. So would you say that if you're an introvert, entrepreneurship is possibly a bad fit?
No, I read a book about this. It's one of the Harvard Business Reviews. I'll have to send you a link.
Okay.
I thought you have to be an extrovert to be entrepreneurial, but you don't. I mean, there's a different route to get there. Perhaps introverts are even more successful, and there's more of them. I don't know. Harvard Business Review, Google it, introverts versus extroverts, entrepreneurs. I love that series. I don't know if anyone's, or if you have been able to read the articles or some of the books, but very, very bright people that write that stuff. Real world.
I was trying to look it up as you were talking. I'll go back to it. So let me ask you the next question. So you started the company, you grew it and you grew it. When did you know it's time to, you're hitting a new level and maybe additional help, additional input is a good idea?
I can answer that in two different ways, with the truth, or maybe I'm supposed to. I'll answer it, but you won't know which one it is, right? So when I knew, the truth is my partner was ready to kind of move on to his next phase of life and venture, right? And when you have a partner, it's difficult. It's hard to buy somebody out. It could be expensive, right? So we looked at a couple of different options, and I can get into some of how we found the partner. The process of finding a banker and a broker and going through the whole sale process, quite interesting, a little scary. You probably know a little bit about it, but so essentially we kind of went down a road, and once we went in one direction, it had to happen, right? The other direction would have left me maybe more intact, more of an owner to take some equity off through private equity. But this, having a strategic partner, a little bit different. I no longer own the company, so obviously my role changes. It also, dawned upon me that, I think it's probably time. I can get into being a business owner, as you mentioned earlier in the chat here. The pressures of owning your own business, while you get to make your own vacation schedule and, whatever else, name it, right? It, right? The burden is on you to make sure that your folks, it's their lives, it's their livelihoods, right? So I think the last couple of years I spent maybe more time making sure they were comfortable, they were learning things, they were happy, they had work for them, they had insurance, all those things like that. And it became more administrative, which I think some people really like. But again, like I said, I did the early stuff, how to get there, how to start it, and we also almost died a few times. And, we had an original partner that we had to remove, unfortunately. And we had to build the company up because, things didn't work out with her. So, going through all that, I think just, coming to this stage in my life, and hopefully I'm still considered young, but, learning all that stuff from the beginning, just, from the first job I had as a process chemist at Lonza, to where I'm at right now. Again, I really appreciate your having me on here because, especially folks that are a little younger in their career, but, have bigger dreams and aspirations. It's a process, right? You never think about where you want to go. It just happens. Things change all the time, and this happened to be a change, and now I'm here, right? And now I'm saying, well, where's the next place? Where am I at, in 10 years? So, and I have some ideas, but I don't know. I could be here and really take this life sciences company, to the next stage, or something else could come up too. So I'm sure opportunity will find me.
But I guess that's part of the question, right? How do you even begin? It's that question that you ask like 20-year-olds as they're starting to come out of college, and you go, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And I've never known how to answer that question because you have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's worse when you're basically when you're a 20-year-old, at least you're curtailed by options. Now
Right.
it's even harder. In your case, you're sort of going, it's not money, it's not time, it's not expertise, it's desire. And how do you
Right.
know what's the desire that sort of directs you?
For myself, again, it's learning, it's having something to do, something to dream about, something to believe in. That's the four pillars or whatever to make me happy at least. But it's funny that you just said that. It's not just 20-year-olds. I have 3 teenagers. One's going, the older one knows a little bit more about his path. I think he wants to be a lawyer, by the way, Darshan. But the middle guy, I asked him yesterday, like, what do you plan to do? And like, he's really like doesn't know, right? Something in science or whatever. So just to kind of move it ahead, I've actually taken on a lot of, well, not a lot, two mentees, I guess you would call them, 2 folks from the college that I graduated with, who are actually not doing the same thing. They're moving into AI type of thing in robotics and driverless cars, something I have a passion and fascination with, but I know nothing about, right? They're on the other side. They know nothing about industry or anything that happens when you get jobs and those things like that. So finding that partnership, while they think of me as someone that can mentor, it's only through life experiences, right? I learned so much from them the other way. So for myself, the same thing. I probably don't plan to retire anytime soon. I would like to take effectively everything I learned and continue to learn more, and again, teach folks and kind of share that information so we can all get better.
So I mean, one of the consistent themes that's sort of been pulled throughout this conversation is this is almost a time where you're looking back at a lot of the efforts you made and the lessons you learned, and you're trying to give back and help people learn from the mistakes you made, learn from the successes you had. Um, I guess my question would be, um, how do you choose or how do you identify the person who's ready to learn those lessons?
Yeah, I mean, you just know, right? I mean, I've tried to pull folks that I thought were material and, try to educate them or train them or just share information with them, and they have to be interested. So, if someone doesn't call you back or they don't express interest, sometimes you can tell, then, it's not there, right? It's those folks that continue to kind of push and come after, they want to be included. They want to learn, right? And they don't even know it, right? They're just, or they don't need it sometimes. Some of these folks that I work with are smarter than I am. They have more things going on in their lives even, right? It's the ones that keep coming and just trying to get, involved, be a part of things. It's not always for money either. It's just for exposure and experience. And it's not to pad a resume, either. I could tell, as you probably know, it's folks that that are going to be successful. And maybe I just can read people, really well. Maybe I know and I can see that. But it does take a village, though, and then some. I think, I mean, I've also, connected folks with people. It's kind of like the Yoda thing, right? I don't know anything with. I couldn't help them if they're not in biotech or pharma. Maybe they're into the legal scene. I would maybe refer them to someone like yourself who has a lot more skills and talent, right? Or in other areas. So, being a mentor is one thing, but there's also, being a Yoda, someone that just can open a door. That happens as well. So, again, it's a payback thing.
So, so let's jump back a little bit to your journey, and we're already well past time. As you know, I try to do these for about 15, 20 minutes. We're already over, but you're just fascinating person to talk to. And I feel like there's just a lot of learning to do. But let me ask you this question. When you are, at some point, you were ready to consider other options. At some point, multiple companies probably came to you and said, we might be the right partner for you. Not getting into names, but what made you go, you're not the right fit? How do you know that the company you're with was the right fit for you and some others weren't? Was it and how much of it plays into your goals for the future versus your company's goals for the future? And what I mean by that, and so I'm trying to clarify so that you have at least a direction to run in. But do you go, I'm making this up, they gave me $100 million and I get to walk away and I get to sit at a beach? Or do you go, they gave me only $1 million, I shouldn't say only, but they gave me $1 million and I get to, but I have to work with them, but it helps my company grow to something else and I get to look at that and go, that's that, I created that. So how do you make that decision?
Yeah, so I guess it starts at the top. Do you look at private equity who maybe infuse money into you, and a lot of the work is still on you, like me, to make it grow. There's a little bit more risk there, but the reward might be larger, right? Maybe the multiples are larger in 5 years, obviously, if you grow 5 times, right? Or you find a strategic partner, and we looked at both of them, and we felt the fit was really for where we were at, to try to grow was a strategic partner. And we found a company in Europe that has already a established post-marketing, regulatory compliance business there. And, we think this is a fantastic synergy. They don't have a lot of presence in the US, especially in the biotech space. And we don't have a lot of presence in Europe with the biotech space. So, we can cross-sell our services. Essentially, we can learn about the culture and the market. It's not a huge conglomerate company here. So at this stage, there's a lot of communications, a lot of discussions. And I don't know if this is part of the question, but one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that everyone on our management team had a position here still, and were able to grow themselves, right? Maybe they don't want to, maybe they don't, but I assume they do, right? So, as of a couple of months ago, I was a boss and my partner, and then we had folks, a management team, a terrific management team that we built, that have proven themselves. They don't really have anywhere to go, right? Like their next promotion was where, right? I mean, to buy our company and become the owner. Well, so I think at this point, the strategic partnership, now we have access to sort of a real company, like a larger company with different departments and innovative stuff going on. So I'm going to shout out to Miranda Prascandola. She's someone that came in and started business development or helped with business development and marketing at DSI. And, for someone like her in her early third, I shouldn't say her, but anyway, for someone like her earlier in her career, let's just say, she has the opportunity that I'm probably had when I went from a large company being sort of siloed into one area, where when I went to biotech, small biotech, again, I could do everything, fake it until you make it. And, the first couple of months, a little scary, but, you become an expert. So I don't know if that answers your question, but, strategic partnerships work in a lot of instances. We probably could have been successful as well with private equity behind us. But the truth is, I would have probably had to work really, really hard in the next couple of years, maybe harder than ever, to grow it, to expand, et cetera. So, and administratively, I was looking for a little bit of a different challenge. So I think this one worked out pretty well, and I still have a role, and I can get into some of the, the platforms of disruptive innovation that are coming with genomics and artificial intelligence and the blockchain, and how, regulatory, probably in 5 years, submissions are going to look, I think, completely different. I don't know if the FDA or anyone knows this yet, but if you follow Bitcoin and Ethereum and those things like that, a lot of these process stuff could be applied to drug development. Essentially, you're going to be generating information that has some value versus, your trial fails and the company folds. So I think we all could be much more crisp and effective and efficient moving forward. Just like we look around every day at our, our lives. I mean, we take some of the stuff for granted. If we had some of our stuff 10 years ago, imagine how much our lives would be different, right?
Right, right. Okay, we're well past time. So let me go back to the questions that I told you I'd ask you. What is one question you'd like to ask the audience based on what we discussed?
That's a good question. It's a tough question. What would I like to ask the audience? I guess actually don't know. You stumped me. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years personally? In your careers. I often wonder sometimes what folks think every day coming into an office, doing the same thing every day, right?
Yeah.
I have friends too that I have been doing it, and I have actually asked them these questions, and they're very happy and they're looking forward to retiring someday. And then what happens after that, I don't know. But I love life. I love learning. I love building. I used to love fixing a lot, but fixing's still fun. But now I like building better. So I guess that's the question. Like where do you want to be in 5 years? I heard some saying where you become successful by working your tail off when you're in your 20s. It's probably true. I think you did that, Darshan, right? I know I did. But life it's short. But you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I see folks out there that are mentally still really well, have it. But they're looking to learn. So it's never too late, but it's never too early to start. Heading towards something that really makes you happy. That's probably what you need to do.
It's funny you say that. I'm thinking a little bit about perspective change. You said you start working hard in the 20s. I remember in my teens, 25 was ancient.
Yeah.
40 was probably about 5 steps from death, and I think 60 was 2 years after you died. But
Right.
but what you're pointing out is life's just beginning, and age and sort of excitement is a perspective issue. So no, that's awesome. I told you I'd ask you two other questions. My first question, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. It's up to you.
My first question, what is something you learned in the last month?
Ooh, I learned a lot. Some of the stuff I can't share. um, I learned that you can time the market.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're I believe so because I've done it now, right? I mean, I'm just talking about the stock market. If there's 4 or 5 times a year when you can actually make money, and I like to read technical charts, and psychology of the market fascinates me. Individual stocks are their personalities are the people who invest in them, and not everyone invests in every stock, right? So I've studied that. There's several amazing books out there, psychology of the market, can fool you, and it's much like life. It's much like drug development. There's companies. If I want to tie it back to maybe the biotech industry, every company has a couple of people that work there, right? And usually their personalities dictate if they're going to be successful, how successful, how much money they spend, and those things like that. So I have seen a lot of success stories out there, and I know the types, right, that are going to be successful. So, but what I learned is you can time the market, but you gotta study a lot. You gotta do a lot of homework.
Very cool. And what made you happy this week?
Oh, well, I actually got to spend some time with my teenage son at a baseball showcase in Georgia. We had plans to step into a hotel for 5 or 7 days straight, and after 2 days, you can imagine sitting with a teenage son for 5 to 7 straight days. So what made me happy is I had a friend in the area, old friend, who I don't see that much. We checked out of the hotel after day 2, and we spent time at his house. We did a lot of historical exploration in his area. We went on this amazing fishing trip and reeled in like 50 fish.
Wow.
I'm not a fisherman, but I do have pictures, and I guess I get to spend time with my middle son. I have 2 other ones too, and I'm looking forward to spending like private time with each of those this summer.
That is really, really cool. And Ed, if now that you're potentially open to new adventures, if someone has the right new adventure for you, what could a potential right new adventure look like for you, and how can they reach you?
I think you can find me on LinkedIn. As I mentioned, I still have a role transitioning DSI over to our partner. But mainly LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's an amazing tool. As you know, Darshan, I think that's how we somehow connected early on, and we kept in touch. Google Narke, Edward Narke, Narke. It's not a common name, I guess you can say. So, and also I'm also, any opportunity I'm open to hear about, even if I could share, my experiences or my network with. I'd like to see people succeed. I learned a lot last year, with the COVID and relationships. I learned a lot of my friends that I thought were friends, maybe weren't my friends, but I did know a lot of people that I didn't, really know that well, who were interested in building, something, building success, building good stuff, those things like that. I learned a lot from that. So I like to help people. I think, again, it goes back to my payback to the people who helped me get me where I'm at. The last thing, I don't know if there's a question, but, to be a successful entrepreneur, like I told my kids this week, or one of them at least, I've reached every one of my goals for the most part. Obviously, I wanted to be a baseball player in the Major League Baseball. That didn't work out. But, I don't know if it was a real goal. So living the dream life, I'm married. I have 3 healthy kids, some amazing friends, a lot of success stories, a lot of great, memories and stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to making new ones for a long time. So.
Plus, you mentioned all those things. The one thing you didn't mention, which is very close to my heart, is the Batman pictures behind you, which I'm super excited about. But
I'm going to send you some information. If you notice over my right or left shoulder, there's Batman's partner there. She has a saying. I think it says meow. I think I bought the combo for that. So on the other side, I do have Young Frankenstein photos too. I don't know if you know the Bride of Frankenstein lady there. I can't remember the actress's name, but that was my first crush when I was in high school.
That is so cool. Ed, this was wonderful having you on. Thank you so much for coming on. We got to do this again. Hopefully next time we'll talk about manufacturing again, but this was just a real opportunity to talk to someone who was capping a successful career, and I couldn't pass that up.
Yeah, thanks again, Darshan. You're the leader here. And like I said, I was on your podcast maybe a year or 2 ago, and it inspired me to do some other stuff. So I always enjoy, and I hope to see you soon in person. All right. Thanks again.
I'm excited for that. We should definitely meet up. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.